There's a plant Chinese grandmothers have been growing in American backyards since the 1980s. It produces berries with an antioxidant score that made scientists retest their equipment 25,000, while blueberries score for 1,669. Ancient texts called it the longevity fruit. One Chinese herbalist's government records claimed he lived to 252 years old. Modern research found it might actually slow cellular aging. You can't buy it fresh at Whole Foods, but you can buy dried berries for $25 a pound imported from the same Chinese province where farmers grow it like tomatoes. You can buy pills for $50 a bottle promising concentrated benefits. You can buy juice for $40 a liter that made one company $250 million in 3 years. What you can't find is the actual plant at Home Depot. Chinese immigrants brought cuttings in their luggage and their kids never stopped eating the berries. Meanwhile, Americans spent $500 million last year buying processed versions of something that grows like a weed. This is the story of how a 3,000-year-old backyard plant became a health store monopoly. The villages where nobody dies young. Hunza Valley in northern Pakistan sits at 8,000 feet elevation, where old men work terraced fields in their 90s like it's completely normal. Ningxia, China shows the same phenomenon with unusual longevity and unusual health. Explorers in the 1920s documented it and scientists studied it. The common factor was that everyone ate the same berry daily, fresh in summer and dry in winter, from plants their great-grandfathers planted. Li Qingyuan's death certificate said he was 252 years old. Born in 1677 and died in 1933. Western scientists laughed it off as clerical errors. But the pattern wouldn't go away with villages full of healthy 90-year-olds eating the same fruit from shrubs that outlived them. The plant produces, for 50-plus years, from one planting and handles everything from -15 degrees to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It spreads from cuttings you just stick in dirt. A Ningxia farmer told researchers through a translator, "My grandfather planted these. My father harvested them. Now I do." Same plants. Western botanists documented it thoroughly and called it Lycium barbarum, then filed it away because they saw no commercial value. The berries died in 3 to 5 days, so they couldn't ship them, and no market existed. The plants stayed in Chinese gardens and monastery courtyards until someone actually tested what was in the berries. The numbers that broke the charts. In the 1990s, advanced nutritional analysis technology allowed scientists to test goji berries, and the results seemed impossible. Antioxidants 5 times higher than blueberries, polysaccharides found in no other common food, and all 8 essential amino acids, which is almost unheard of for fruit. Vitamin C was 500 times more concentrated than oranges when dry. Zeaxanthin for eye health appeared at levels that seemed like typos. Research suggested the polysaccharides might affect telomere length, which are the caps on your DNA that shorten as you age. Studies showed immune enhancement, potential anti-tumor properties, and neuroprotection. Peer-reviewed papers piled up by 2,000, but fresh berries in American supermarkets remained at 0. Someone saw dollar signs though. The multi-level marketing gold rush. In 2003, Free Life International launched Himalayan goji juice with an aggressive pitch. Reverse aging, prevent cancer, extend your lifespan, boost energy, sleep better, see clearer. The price was $40 per liter bottle, and the business model was multi-level marketing. Buy inventory, recruit distributors, and earn commissions on your downline. The pitch wrote itself with Himalayan mystique, Tibetan monk testimonials, and real scientific studies mixed with wild claims. 3 years later, they hit $250 million in revenue. Competitors, Ikmonavi and Zango flooded in, and everyone launched a superfruit juice. Grocery stores started stocking dried goji in bulk bins, but fresh goji berries in produce sections remained nowhere to be found. The plants stayed absent from garden centers, while dried berries were marked up 5,000% from source to shelf. Then someone at the FDA read the marketing materials. When the government steps in, sort of. On May 2, 2006, the FDA sent a warning letter to Free Life International for making disease claims about a dietary supplement. Under federal law, only approved drugs can claim to cure, treat, or prevent disease. Free Life had crossed every line with claims about curing cancer, reversing aging, and treating diabetes. The FDA demanded they stop, and Free Life complied by changing every word. supports healthy aging, replaced reverses aging, and promotes immune function, replaced prevents cancer. Sales barely dropped, and the entire supplement industry took notes. Everyone learned the magic phrases where structure function claims were allowed, but disease claims were prohibited. A former FDA specialist explained it simply: they can say it supports your immune system, but they can't say it cures anything. The line is technical, but enforced. Supplement sales exploded while the fresh berry market stayed at zero. But here's the thing: the fresh berry problem was already solved. The shelf life excuse, the industry line was that fresh goji berries have a 3 to 5 day shelf life and are too delicate for national distribution. California to New York takes 5 to 7 days and the berries can't survive. Except frozen goji berries exist in Asian grocery stores right now. Fresh goji shows up at farmers markets every late summer for $12 to $18 a pound. Grown by small-scale farmers who figured out harvest timing. The USDA restricts importing live plants due to pest concerns, but dried berries flow across borders by the ton with zero restrictions and massive volume. Walk into Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, or Costco and dried goji is everywhere at $15 to $25 a pound. Now compare the economics. Dried berries cost $25 per pound, and you buy them forever, while one plant costs $25 one time and produces 7+ pounds per year for 50 years. The math explains the shelf space. Why Home Depot doesn't carry it. Home Depot's garden center has rows of petunias, marigolds, and impatiens, plus racks of hostas, daylilies, and coneflowers. There's a section of blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries, but not one goji plant. Lowe's is the same story, and local nurseries might have one, mislabeled and buried in back. The Burpee catalog through the 2000s had zero goji listings, and it's only available from specialty online nurseries most people never hear about. A wholesale nursery beer explained it in 2018. Vendors push what generates repeat business. Goji breaks the model because it's a perennial shrub where you buy once and harvest forever. It has pest-resistant thorny branches, so no pesticide sales, tolerates terrible soils, so no fertilizer dependency, and fixes its own nitrogen like beans. Garden centers make money on annuals you replant yearly and perennials that need constant products. One-and-done plants don't pay the bills. Universities tried patenting improved cultivars in the 2000s like Crimson Star, Sweet Lifeberry, and Phoenix Tears with $2 to $5 royalty per plant. But original goji can't be patented because it's been in the public domain for 3,000 years. Anyone can propagate from cuttings by just sticking a branch in dirt and waiting 6 weeks. The improved versions offered marginally larger berries or fewer thorns. A consumer awareness stay near zero. You can't advertise health benefits due to FDA rules, so demand never materialized and the patents became worthless. Meanwhile, a different strategy was working perfectly: how they sold you the extract instead. From 2010 to 2020, dried goji became a superfood trend. Whole Foods featured it in bulk bins, Trader Joe's packaged it, and Costco sold it in huge containers at $15 to $25 per pound. 95% was imported from Ningxia province, China, the same province where locals grow it in backyard gardens and eat it fresh like Americans eat tomatoes. Quality problems emerged with pesticide residues and heavy metals from industrial soil contamination. Organic dried goji cost $25 to $40 per pound, but American consumer perception locked in. Goji equals exotic Himalayan, import equals expensive equals premium equals health food aisle. Nobody connected it to plant equals garden scent equals grow it yourself. The supplement industry refined the extraction with pills at $30 to $50 per bottle, marketed as concentrated polysaccharides. Powder at $25 to $40 per pound as standardized potency, and juice concentrate at $40 to $60 per liter as enhanced bioavailability. Processing removes the fiber, secondary nutrients, and synergistic compounds in whole berries. Fresh berries from a plant in your yard are free after a $25 initial investment and provide complete nutrition. By 2020, global superfood supplements hit $8 billion, and Americans alone spend $500 million yearly on goji products. The estimated households growing goji plants number under 50,000, which means 1,000 buyers for every one grower. The knowledge your neighbors already have. In San Gabriel Valley, California's Chinese-American neighborhoods, a gardener explained, "My family has grown goji for 40 years and we brought cuttings from China in our luggage. Everyone in our community knows and we think it's funny when Americans pay $25 for a bag of dried berries." Google search data tells the story whereby goji berries generates millions of results with massive ad spending, while grow goji plant generates only thousands of results, mostly forums. The marketing worked exactly as designed and you learned to buy the extract, but never knew you could grow the source. What growing it actually looks like. In a backyard in Oregon with nothing special about the soil in USD is Zone 7. A 6-year-old goji shrub stands 8 feet tall and produces 7 pounds of berries every year. It survived last winter's -10°F cold snap without damage and handles summer heat over 100 degrees. It's drought-resistant once the roots establish and needs no pesticides because the thorns deter deer and rabbits, while bitter leaves keep insects away. Want more plants? Cut a 6-inch branch in spring, stick it in dirt, water occasionally, and 6 weeks later you have roots and free plants forever. First small harvest comes in year 2 to 3. Full production by year 4, and it continues for 50+ years. The Himalayan monks who supposedly lived past 100 didn't have supplement pills, they had gardens outside their monastery walls. In San Francisco, a 70-year-old woman picks berries from a plant her mother brought as a cutting from Beijing in 1994 and the plant is 30 years old now. She says, "Never buy what you can grow. This plant is older than my children and it will outlive me. Why would I pay $25 for a bag of dried berries from China when I brought China here?" What actually happened? The supplement industry didn't ban goji. They just made sure you'd buy bottles instead of planting shrubs. Goji never disappear, and it's growing right now in Chinese-American gardens across California, specialty farms in Oregon and Washington, botanical collections at universities, and random backyards where someone knew. The compounds didn't change. The longevity research is still there, and the 50-year productive lifespan is real. What changed was who controlled the information. The industry built a system around $40 juice bottles through multi-level marketing, $25 bags of dried berries imported from where people grow it free, and $50 extract pills promising what whole berries already give you. Fresh berries can't be distributed nationally because the 3-day shelf life kills that model. But the plant thrives in zones 5 through 9, which is most of America, in full sun with minimal water after the first year, and it produces for half a century. The monks didn't achieve longevity through supplements. They had daily access to fresh berries from plants that outlived them. The bottom line, the longevity claims are still unproven scientifically, but the nutrition is documented extensively and the plant is completely real and available. The difference between spending $40 per bottle and getting it free is knowing the plant grows in your climate. The monastery was always accessible, it just got rebranded as a health food store with a massive markup. If this investigation changed how you see supplement marketing, subscribe. Every share breaks the knowledge monopoly that keeps extraction systems profitable. More forgotten plants, industry secrets, and backyard medicines are coming soon. That fountain of youth might already be zone hardy in your area. You just weren't supposed to know you could plant it.